Trade has big benefits, and I am in favor, totally in favor of trade. But I want trade deals for our country that create more jobs and higher wages for American workers. Isolation is not an option.
Donald Trump detailing his plans for trade. Many in the party, however, still not on board. Trump economic advisor Steve Moore joins us now. This has always, Steve, of course, been sort of the centerpiece of conservative policy, if you will, free trade. Donald Trump, though, going to great lengths saying he's not against trade and isolation is not an option. However, what happens if he's put to the task here? Because we're talking about maybe, you think China will blink out the gate?
Well, first of all, Charles, good to be with you. And, we're here where the speech was just given. I got to tell you, there's an amazing electricity. There was like a current of electricity that went through this auditorium and the convention hall. People were so excited. And my phone and emails have been lit up with people saying, finally, Trump has turned the corner. This is a real, I think this is a turning point. I really do. I think you're going to see a surge in the poll. I mean, he knocked it apart on regulation, on energy, on taxes. Now, on trade, I'm glad you played that little clip, Charles, where he said trade is good, because that's an important line, and what he's saying is we do need trade, but we need trade deals that work better for the American worker. And I think that's something, all Republicans and conservatives can agree with that. Can you live with that, Charles?
I can live with that. But listen, I think we can win a trade war, but I just always caution people. It wouldn't be easy, and it wouldn't be like bloodless. So, and my question is, how do we go about it? In other words, do we go to everyone and say, hey, we're going to redo NAFTA, or we'll walk away from it?
Well, look, NAFTA is one of the issues I personally disagree with Donald Trump on. But let's talk more about, some of these other trade agreements where we know, these countries are cheating, and then we know that they're violating the agreements. They're not living by the rules of the agreement. And what Donald Trump is saying is, look, if these countries are cheating and stealing, then we ought to renegotiate them. And I completely agree with that. He had a statistic about tens of billions of dollars. I think it might have been over $100 billion that's lost to the American economy because many of these Asian countries steal our technologies, Charles, and that isn't free trade. That is just theft. And I think having somebody like Donald Trump at the negotiating table and saying, look, unless you start paying us for the services and the goods you're taking from us, we're not going to open up our markets to you. I mean, we need to use a stick with these countries because they are cheating and they're stealing.
There's no doubt about it, and I certainly would rather have Hillary Clinton across the table from me than Donald Trump. Having said that, he talked about environmental rules. He talked about labor rules. Are we going to try to get China to change those elements, or are we just pointing out because they don't adhere to them, it gives them an advantage?
I think what he's saying is, the most important thing with respect to, for example, trading with China, and I would say Japan as well, and some of these other Asian countries like Korea, is what happens with these negotiations is we open up our markets to them, and then they don't open up their markets to us. I mean, he mentioned Korea, where we've seen almost no increase in our exports to Korea, but they've seen a huge surge in their imports to us. That's something that I don't think the American workers are going to go for. And, unless you're in favor of unilateral free trade, and some of my libertarian friends are, that's not a real trade deal. But by the way, that was only a small portion of the talk, Charles.
Sure,
I mean, the energy stuff, the tax stuff was really what was revealing. I mean, one line I want to repeat, if I may, and this is important. Hillary is talking about raising taxes on businesses to as high as 50% when you take into account her income tax surcharge on, quote, the rich. Trump is talking about 15%. So think about that, Charles. Which is better for business, a 50% tax on our exports or a 15% tax? I mean, this is not complicated stuff.
No, that's a no-brainer. I know the only way they're going to fight back against that is through politics of envy, not through economic,
You've got it.
But let me ask you real quick.
And that's what Hillary's going to say. She's going to say tax cuts
on this window. And I want to talk specifically about infrastructure because Donald Trump talked about that moments ago. Let's refresh the audience.
We will open a new chapter in American prosperity, which is so desperately needed. We need a new chapter. We can use this new wealth to rebuild our military, which is desperately needed, and our infrastructure. We will build the next generation of roads, bridges, railways, tunnels, seaports, and airports. That believe me, folks, is what our country deserves.
All right, Steve, there are a couple of things here. Obviously, who ultimately pays for this, and where do we go to a point where, like Spain, they have like 40 airports and, 20 of them were never used. They created a lot of jobs initially, but then long term.
Well, Charles, I think everybody's, upset about the condition of our roads.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I drive to work every day, and there's potholes all over the place, and we've got way too much traffic congestion in cities because we've built these ridiculous mass transit systems that nobody uses, and then the roads are completely congested. So let me say this. One of the lines I want to hear Donald Trump talk more about when he talks about infrastructure is what happened to all the money that Barack Obama spent on infrastructure. We had remember the shovel-ready projects, and then we had another roads bill and all that. We've spent hundreds of billions of dollars at Obama, and the roads are still terrible. We still have crowded airports. Our ports need to be rebuilt. So if we're going to do it, we need to do it in a smart way, and we got to take politics out of it. I don't want to pay for the $70 billion, high-speed rail system in California that nobody's going to ride. So it's got to take politics out of it, and we can get better infrastructure.
Yeah, according to the Society for Engineers, I think we have at least $3.5 trillion worth of projects between now and 2020, from these bridges to these aqua systems to the roads, that must be fixed. They got a grade of D+. You get a grade of A+, though, Steve, real quick.
Yeah. Okay, I don't believe that figure, because who's going to get all that money if we spend $3 trillion? It's the engineers. So they're a special interest group lobbying for more money.
But the point is, though,
I don't believe
everyone agrees, though, that we need to do something about our infrastructure.
We need more.
Okay.
You got it.